all year round.
It's so mysterious.
This is who we are.
This is who we are.
WAVR.
WADR, promoting dialogue.
It's May in Dakar, 1 o'clock in Abuja. Good afternoon and welcome to Newslink here on West Africa, Democracy Radio Broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world at wadr.org. Here are the top stories. Presidential campaign officially kicks off in Côte d'Ivoire ahead of October 25 election as election chair urges responsible engagement.
Candidate, je vous invite donc.
Candidates, I invite you on the occasion of this exercise to show restraint and courtesy in each of your public statements. Your campaign will only be effective if it is conducted with respect and courtesy towards your fellow candidates.
Guinea's Electoral Commission releases provisional list of presidential candidates for December election. Mali launches nationwide operation to regulate fuel distribution. As well, university workers in Nigeria stage protest over unmet demands.
The non-teaching staff in the university should be treated with dignity. We are all equal. We are all critical stakeholders in the university system.
Please stay with us for details of these stories and more.
Here is Augustine Coley with Newslink.
Thank you for joining our broadcast this afternoon. Newslink begins in Côte d'Ivoire, where the presidential electoral campaign is officially underway, with over 8.7 million voters expected to head to the polls in 2 weeks from now. The Independent Electoral Commission has urged candidates to campaign respectfully and in strict compliance with the rules, while calling on voters to act responsibly, ensuring a peaceful and credible election. The Independent Electoral Commission President Ibrahim Coulibaly Kubert assured that all measures have been put in place for a fair, secure, and transparent process nationwide. Here is
Candidate, je vous invite donc.
Candidates, I invite you on the occasion of this exercise to show restraint and courtesy in each of your public statements. The quality of your speech, the relevance of your proposals, and nobility of your commitment. Your campaign will only be effective if it is conducted with respect and courtesy towards your fellow candidates. It will only be fruitful if it is carried out with respect for the voters and the population in general. During these 2 weeks, each of you engaged in this competition may therefore campaign in strict compliance with the rules of the game as prescribed by the Electoral Code. Dear fellow citizens, as you can see, we are entering the final phase of the process to elect the President of the Republic. The campaign must take place in an atmosphere of calm, dialogue, and mutual listening. You must remain attentive, not only to find solutions to your own challenges, but also to identify the best answers to the concerns of your fellow citizens and to make choices that will shape the future of our national community. At the end of this campaign period, it will be up to you to make the right choice with full awareness and understanding on October 25 during the vote.
En toute connaissance des causes, le 25 octobre, lors du scrutin.
Ibrahim Coulibaly Kubert is the president of Côte d'Ivoire's Independent Electoral Commission. Meanwhile, an important regional meeting dedicated to strengthening democratic resilience in West Africa opened this morning in Abidjan, held under the theme Combating Disinformation Through Evidence, Collaboration and Innovation. The gathering is an initiative of Pen Plus Bytes, a non-profit organization committed to promoting change through innovation in partnership with the National Endowment for Democracy NED and West Africa Democracy Radio. The meeting aims to share data-driven analysis on the state of disinformation and institutional trust across the 4 targeted countries. It also seeks to bring together media professionals, civic and government leaders, technology platforms, researchers, and policy advocates to explore locally and regionally tailored responses. Furthermore, the initiative intends to systemically assess the resilience of key countries, which include Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, Mali, and Burkina Faso against disinformation threats through the development of a disinformation index. Participants aspire to formulate concrete recommendations for governments, civil society organizations, and international partners with the goal of bettering safeguarding democratic processes from the growing menace of disinformation. Elsewhere in Guinea, the provisional list of political parties and independent candidates competing for the December 28 presidential election has been unveiled. The list was announced by the General Director of Elections during a press briefing held on Thursday in Conakry. Guinea's presidential election is already shaping up to be a decisive moment in the race towards Secretariat, where familiar faces and new faces intend to compete at the ballot box. There are 50 political parties in the running and 16 independent candidates. Details of this news will come up in our subsequent newscast. Well, in Burkina Faso, the country plans to require large companies establishing their headquarters within the country. A draft bill to that effect was adopted on Thursday during a Council of Ministers meeting. According to the government, the move aims to attract more capital into the country and, in the words of the Minister of Economy, Abubakar Nakanambor, accelerate the urbanization of cities. He spoke after the Council of Ministers meeting.
The preliminary draft law stipulates that all companies with an average annual turnover of 5 billion CFA francs or more over the past 3 years will now be required to build their headquarters in Burkina Faso in accordance with clearly defined standards. The state will provide tax incentives on certain construction materials to support this initiative. However, strict deadlines have been set to ensure that these large companies construct their headquarters and that the law's implementation is effective. Once the bill is submitted to and adopted by the Transitional Legislative Assembly, companies will have a 6-month deadline to present their real estate project. After that, they will move on to the construction phase. Construction standards will vary based on a classification determined by the company's turnover. First category: companies with an annual turnover above 100 billion CFA francs. Second category: companies with turnover between 50 and 100 billion CFA francs. Third category: companies with turnover between 10 and 50 billion CFA francs. And finally, fourth category: companies with turnover between 5 and 10 billion CFA francs.
Burkina Faso's Minister of Economy, Abubakar Nakanambo. We continue in Burkina Faso because the Sahelan state is holding its Investor Forum 2025. Launched on Thursday in the capital, Ouagadougou, the event concludes today, Friday. Over 1,000 participants from 48 African, Western, and Asian countries are taking part into this forum. The forum provides a platform for exchanges between investors, local entrepreneurs, and public institutions. Christopher Aticho reports.
The first edition of the International Forum Invest in Burkina Faso brings together 1,200 participants from 48 countries worldwide. According to the president of the Transitional Legislative Assembly, this demonstrates that the country remains an attractive destination despite security challenges.
Contrary to what some alarmists may claim, you can see for yourself that Burkina Faso is standing strong, moving forward despite the challenges. You have made the right choice, and I invite you to invest here because the future looks bright.
Parce que l'avenir s'annonce radieux.
This forum is an initiative by the Burkinabe government to promote Burkina Faso as an investment destination. It is also a means to assess the country's economic sovereignty by establishing win-win partnerships, says Sage Poda, Minister of Industry and Trade.
Sovereignty for our nation is not just a word. It's a firm commitment to decide for ourselves and to build a future that reflects who we are and unites us. In this regard, major structural investments form the pillars upon which our economic independence will stand.
The forum concludes today with China as the guest of honor.
Ouagadougou's correspondent Martin Kabas report presented by Christopher Teacher.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Well, we are still in the Central Sahel region, this time in Mali, where the Directorate General of Trade, Consumer Affairs and Competition has launched a large-scale inspection and awareness campaign on fuel distribution. The operation, initiated on Thursday, aims to enforce official fuel prices at the pump and put an end to the sale of fuel in jerry cans. This measure comes as the country has recently faced a fuel shortage in several major cities. Abdullahi Hassan has the details.
The campaign, which began on Thursday, covers the district of Bamako and all regions across the country. It follows decisions made by the Interministerial Committee for Crisis and Disaster Management, which met last week to assess security measures to ensure the country's fuel supply. Through this inspection and awareness initiative, the Directorate General of Trade seeks to enforce official pump prices, monitor stock levels, and prevent hoarding or discriminatory sales practices. According to authorities, the initiative will also help improve fuel distribution nationwide and put an end to sales to jerrycan vendors. The Directorate has also called on the public to show understanding and patriotism in supporting these measures, which are aimed at stabilizing the fuel market. Meanwhile, the Attorney General has issued a warning against price manipulation, refusal to sell, and the spread of false information about fuel availability. In a statement, the prosecutor condemned the actions of certain individuals seeking to disrupt public order, undermine social peace, and weaken the national economy. He further stressed that anyone defying these directives will face legal sanctions under existing laws. The Attorney General also urged citizens to act responsibly and report any behavior that violates the law.
That's a report from Bamako correspondent Aliyu Cham, voiced by Abdullahi Hassan. At the same time, Malian authorities have announced a reduction in the price of passport of the Confederation of Sahel States. The decision made during a Council of Ministers meeting aims to harmonize the travel document while facilitating the free movement of people, goods and services within the Confederation area. Imo Edit reports.
From now on, the standard ordinary service passport will cost 45,000 CFA francs, down from 55,000, while the premium optimal service will be reduced from 110,000 to 90,000 CFA francs. This reduction of 10,000 and 20,000 CFA francs, respectively, is intended to make the document more accessible to citizens. According to the government, the decision forms part of the implementation of the AES passport, adopted on April 18 by the heads of state of Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger. The single passport for the three countries meets International Civil Aviation Organization ICAO standards and guarantees the protection of personal data, according to the Minister of Security and Civil Protection. The measure also seeks to harmonize the document and facilitate the free movement of people, goods and services within the confederal space. It will also help strengthen border security amid ongoing terrorist threats in the Sahel. The AES passport, both digital and biometric, will eventually become the main travel document for citizens of the three member states. Through this measure, authorities hope to simplify administrative procedures and encourage greater regional mobility. These new provisions will take effect on October 25.
Imo Edit reporting there. Let's now turn our attention to Ghana, where widespread reports from the U.S. indicate that the Department of Homeland Security plans to deport Kilmal Abrago Garcia to the country. Recently, the government of Ghana, when heavily criticized to agreeing to accept some West African nationals deported from the U.S. Now, the reports.
Abrego Garcia, a Salvadoran national who had been living in Maryland, was previously and wrongly deported to El Salvador despite a 2019 court order barring his removal due to fears of persecution. He was later brought back to the U.S. to face human smuggling charges in Tennessee, to which he had pleaded not guilty. Department of Homeland Security earlier considered deporting him to Eswatini or Uganda. His lawyer, Simon Sandoval Moschenberg, after a court hearing earlier in the week, criticized the plans to deport him to a third country as punitive.
At this point, it is crystal clear what we all knew from the beginning, which is two things. One, the decision to try to send Mr. Abrego Garcia across the Atlantic Ocean to seemingly random African countries when he's already received an offer of refugee status in Costa Rica is purely punitive. That's not permissible. The government does certainly have discretion when it comes to the choice of third country removals, but they can't do it in a punitive manner. And then the second thing is that his detention is now completely impermissible. The only lawful purpose for ICE to detain someone is to carry out their removal. Here, there's no removal to be carried out. They refuse to remove him to the country that he's designated, which is Costa Rica.
Latest report now indicates that the DHS intends to deport him to Ghana. Abrego Garcia's attorneys are scheduled for an evidentiary hearing on Friday regarding the government's steps to remove him following an immigration judge's recent denial of their motion to reopen their case. For WADR, Nadidi Tete, Accra.
You are listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Presidential campaign officially kicks off in Cote d'Ivoire ahead of October 25 election as election chair urges responsible engagement. Guinea's Electoral Commission releases provisional list of presidential candidates for December election. Fire incident leaves 6 family members dead in Liberia's capital, Monrovia. And university workers in Nigeria stage protest over unmet demands. We also have guest interview and sports news, all part of this package. Please stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
We are streaming live on YouTube at WADR and on Facebook, WADR English Service. A devastating fire incident in Liberia's capital, Monrovia, has claimed the lives of 6 members of a family, including 3 children, leaving the community in a state of mourning. The cause of the fire is currently under investigation by the Liberia National Fire Service. WADR's Monrovia correspondent Ibrahim Parker has the details.
Sarah Smith, a survivor of the blaze, recounted the horrifying events that led to the deaths of her mother, siblings, and nieces. According to Smith's emotional account, the fire broke out in a room occupied by one of the women in the house. Smith described attempts to rescue her family members, but the intensity of the fire and a door that won't open prevented their escape.
My older brother came from one room. They call him Harry.
At about 10 p.m., my brother, who also left in the fire, commonly known as Zisa Massa, returned home after walking about and later entered the house. After some meetings, a lady started shouting that fire was in our mother's room. My elder sister, who was outside, forcefully opened my door, and that's how I managed to get out. The fire was so hard in our mother's room. Through the window with the half fire, we could see our mother hawking the rest of her children, in which they later left in the fire. The victims were reportedly asleep when the fire erupted, leaving them with little chance to escape. Community members worked to stop the fire, which started at 11 p.m. Wednesday night. Local authorities are providing support to Sarah Smith and other surviving family members. The government and community members have been called to offer assistance. The incident has deeply shaken the residents of District Number 11, Caldwell, Montserrat County, prompting calls for fire safety awareness and prevention measures. For Newslink on WADR, Abraham Parker, Monrovia.
Elsewhere in Nigeria, non-academic staff of universities embark on a day-long nationwide protest over the government's failure to address their welfare concerns. The Joint Action Committee of the Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities and the Non-Academic Staff Union of Educational and Associated Institutions says the decision follows what they describes as years of neglect by the federal government. WADR's Usma Umar reports from Abuja.
In a circular to all university branches, the unions directed all members to hold peaceful marches and press briefings across campuses to highlight their demands, which include the alleged unfair distribution of a 50 billion naira earned allowances fund, delay in negotiating their 2009 agreements, and unpaid salaries and arrears dating back to 2022.
The non-teaching staff in the university should be treated with dignity. We are all equal. We are all critical stakeholders in the university system, and this is why we are calling on all women in Nigeria. We are calling on National Assembly to intervene. We are calling on international community to intervene. We are calling on clergymen in Nigeria, the religious leaders, people of thought to come and intervene.
You recall that the government approved 25% and 35% increase in our salary. It was implemented. But the arrears of the whole 1 year was not paid.
The unions say they have exhausted all dialogue channels after several unproductive meetings with the government's Joint Consultative Committee. They maintain that Thursday's protest is a signal of growing frustration among university non-teaching staff who feel marginalized in the country's education system. Observers warn that another round of industrial action could further disrupt academic activities already struggling to recover from previous strikes. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar reporting from Abuja.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Our guest interview segment this afternoon takes us back to Cote d'Ivoire, where the Independent Electoral Commission is urging candidates to campaign respectfully and in strict compliance with the rules, while calling on the voters to act responsibly and ensure a peaceful and credible election. The presidential electoral campaign officially underway, with over 8.7 million voters expected to head to the polls in 2 weeks. Our guest is Kopeb Dabugad, an international public affairs analyst who weighs in on the matter.
Like we say about every other country, every other political process across Africa, the incumbency factor is usually a very, very strong factor, even if the incumbent tries to put what seems to look like a level playing ground in place for everybody to operate. But of course, in the case of Cote d'Ivoire, we've followed how that trend has developed over time, with several areas of disagreements between the opposition and the ruling party, with various ways in which we can see that the electoral process is being tampered with by the ruling party. So the situation is such that the case of the opposition in Cote d'Ivoire has become very, very dismal, with the disqualification of the top candidates that the opposition parties have been able to field.
Considering the new candidacy of opposition leaders like Jean-Louis Billon from the PDCR, although the PDCR has not issued any voting instructions following the rejection of its president Tijan Cham's candidacy, as well as Wadr Mello, who is running as an independent candidate after being removed from the PPACR, a former backing of Laurent Gbagbo's party. How do you think they can unite these political parties, ensuring that they have a stable campaign and that they be able to convince the Ivorian populace?
The contest, well, I would say it's a two-way contest. There is no way out of the fact that without coming together, the opposition parties cannot really have a say. The only way that they can actually stand a chance against the ruling party is by closing their ranks. And so far, well, we've not seen any discussion in that regard. But it is important also for them to begin to think about engaging this process as a matter of make or rather than only as an academic exercise.
With the Constitutional Council's rejection of the candidacy of major political figures like Tijan Cham and Laurent Gbagbo, how do you assess the legitimacy and inclusiveness of the current electoral process, and how might this affect the voter turnout and stability during the election?
Well, I think things are very, very clear. First of all, already the top candidates, which brings in a lot of excitement into the process, have been disqualified. These are the most popular candidates: Laurent Gbagbo, Guillaume Soro, Tijan Cham. These are the most popular candidates within the opposition field. They have been disqualified. So definitely you will expect that the interests of the people will drop in participation. So already we will see a drop in the level of participation in the electoral process compared to the last election.
With the rejection of these major opposition candidates, do you foresee a peaceful campaign process, or one that will be marked by violence or disruption coming from disenchanted supporters or members of these rejected opposition candidates?
Well, there is a potential for violence and disruptive electioneering, but I don't see any citizen going out of his way, to put their feet down and say, no, we cannot accept this. Why? Because already the major opposition figures have been disqualified. And these are the people that galvanize a very large section of the population. So you would expect that since they are not in the election, on the electoral ballot, and perhaps they have not initiated a sort of alternative process, a sort of agitation against what no doubt they consider as an injustice. I don't see their supporters, coming out to be very forceful against the electoral process. So I think the elections may be smooth. There may be pockets of violence here and there in the campaign process, but beyond that, I think the elections will still go on. Only that the outcomes may still go the way of the ruling party.
Kobed Dabugat is an international public affairs analyst. And now Christopher Aticho joins me in studio with the latest in the world of sports. Hello, Chris.
Augustine, how are you? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. What's the latest?
Well, the latest in the world of sports is that the Confederation of African Football (CAF) has rejected Asante Kotoko's request to use the Baba Yara Sports Stadium for their upcoming CAF Confederation Cup fixture against Moroccan side Wadr Athletic Club for the second preliminary round. And reasons the CAF is given is that the stadium does not meet standard for that particular encounter, and that particular encounter has been rescheduled to the Accra Sports Stadium to be played on October 19, 2025. And away from CAF, World Cup Under 20 is ongoing by FIFA, and then Morocco has actually advanced to the quarterfinals after defeating Korea Republic 2-1, and Morocco will be meeting the United States of America on Sunday. And then let's talk about some ongoing FIFA World Cup qualifiers are currently ongoing, as Egypt have actually booked their place for the next year's global event by defeating Djibouti 3-0. And other games today will be ongoing. They include Togo will be taking on DRC, that's Democratic Republic of Congo. Sudan would also be in action against Mauritania. South Sudan would also be in action against Senegal, and then Seychelles would also be in action against Cote d'Ivoire. The Gambia would also be playing Gabon, and then Lesotho will also be taking on Nigeria this afternoon. And finally, Zimbabwe would also be taking on South Africa today.
Thank you so much, Chris, for the latest sports news. With that, we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Falilu Sow and Ismaila Kamara for the technical support. Do connect with us via our social media platforms, X, Instagram at WADR English, and on Facebook, WADR English Service. I am Augustine Cully. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, New Me FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County,
Radio Kagama 94.5 FM, Niba County, DCN Radio 91.3 FM, Riverside County, Wakat FM Radio, Banga, Liberia, Radio Baf FM 91.3 Sierra Leone in Nigeria, and Love 104.5 FM Abuja.
For you listening via Radio Pad 95.1 Damango, Savannah region, and on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi, Ghana, we say a big thank you. Remember, West Africa Democracy Radio is all about you, your views, and